Totally happening.
There we go. All righty. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. I am Brian. This is Melissa, depending on where she is in the world. This is Revit Radio, so we're grateful for all of you who came and come and seeing what's going on here. For those of you who are new, because I do see a few new names, this session is all about you guys asking questions and us potentially answering them. And I do say potentially because we might have an answer of I have no clue, but it's still an answer. So we'll get that to you. Hopefully everybody is having a good April Fool's Day. And as usual, if you guys do have questions, please put those in the question and answer pod. Feel free to go ahead and heckle us, correct us when we're wrong, etc. in the chat. Where we always welcome people going crazy on chat, etc. And I do see a lot of people in the chats already talking about the Autodesk 2026 products. As of 30 minutes ago, we had AutoCAD, which actually came out a week ago. Navisworks was shortly after that during the week, and then I believe sorry, 3ds Max was after, and I think Navisworks came out too. Although I always do find this funny. When I come in here and look at this, and I went into the not just the all products, but the products updates, you can download the Revit interoperability for Revit 26 and the Revit 26 personal accelerator. You don't have Revit 26 available to you, but those two extensions are out there. I did also find it kind of scary that the interoperability tool is 4 GB of a download. So that did kind of scare me, but whatever. Can't imagine just the behind the scenes caching tools 4 gigs large, but who am I to judge? So that did come out literally this week. For those of you who've also been looking, and I thought it was kind of hilarious, they did come out with the content catalog that came out like a couple weeks ago, which for 25 Revit, it's kind of like great. It'd be nice if you just waited, another 2 weeks and gave us the one for 26 as well. But who knows? Last year they did release it on April 1st. Today, April Fool's Day, which is odd. They usually release it April 5th or 6th or the following if it's on the weekend Monday. For those of you who aren't complete Revit nerds, the very first Revit was released on April 5th. The only reason I know that is also my daughter's birthday on Thursday. So they did release it April 5th. So that's when they have in the last few years been pretty much releasing it. So look forward to come out in the next week or so. And if you really need to feel like you're doing something in Revit 26, go download the personal accelerator because then you have it. So we only have one question. So as usual, when we get started, we start off with our fun little topics to get everybody going and started on this. So I thought I'd do this a little bit different, Melissa. Maybe you have some, but since it is April Fool's Day, we should start off with jokes to do to people. Right? It's April Fool's. You can screw with them inside of Revit, give them an April Fool's joke. The one thing that I really, really, really love to do, and again, if you really want to be evil, you can do this. Otherwise, is I like to gray things out as many ways as possible. Right. So for me, I personally like to go into like people's views, and I'll just go to a 3D view here real quick. I'm gonna have to close. So since I am working remotely today, I am not going to be seeing any of the chats and Q and A's. I'll have to keep going back to those because single monitor, 17-inch monitor, it's hard to have those up. So I'll be going back and forth with those. But one thing I do like to say is it's really fun is if you go into the visibility graphics, you can always check everything and halftone it, right? That's kind of fun going to people's view templates or into their views and halftone it. But you can also come up here and say, cool, I want to show the model. Da, 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 da. Where is it? Not a parts visibility. Where is the show model? You can say, is that only in non 3D views? Mine will only be in non 3D views.
Like the
Yeah.
display model, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, display model. Was it in 3D? Am I just blind? Yeah, you don't have display model in here. That is weird. I don't think I've ever
That's all
noticed
you
it.
can see.
Yeah, that's true. That is a very good point, Melissa. So display model, you can also say, hey, I want to display the model half-toned, right? So you can half-tone that. You can go into your VG views and half-tone all of those. Then usually I'll go into like a filter and I'll create a filter that will half-tone it. So you can do multiple ways. I'll create a new phase and then go say, hey, show previous on the phase, and people won't be paying attention to that. It's like cool, show the previous phases, and so then those will be half-toned, etc. Well, all of that stuff is in the current phase, but going through and start setting up. So one of the things I like to do is literally go in and like half-tone it 9, 10, 11 different ways. Go and create filters for things to half-tone it, play with the display model. Obviously, you have to do this in multiple different views, but it's really fun if you do it because when people get one, like, oh, I figured it out. Some idiot half-toned everything. Great, let me select all of these and let me go in and unhalf-tone them. This is cool. And then it's still gray. And then it's a little bit less of a gray. So I don't know. That's kind of one of the fun tricks I always like to do.
Okay, Satan.
Satan. Hey, we did this in civil chat. That's the previous webcast we did. We did it in civil chat as well. And that's just kind of fun too to go in. You can also go into the VG. You can go into the overrides as well. Right, if I go into, okay, why am I not getting visibility graphics here? If I go into VG, you can literally select them all again and then go into the overrides and like, cool, let me go override the line color to be gray. Right, a lot of different ways to go through and change everything to make it gray on people. So play with it, see how many ways you can come up with. And that's one of my good April Fool's jokes as we're going through there to really be looking at
Definitely seeing some evil ideas in chat too.
it. Okay, I gotta open those up to see what people are saying too.
Me- There you go. Simon says to rename the 2025 icon to 26.
Ooh, there you go. And everybody will be so excited that they actually have that. Like, woohoo. I like Dan's, make everybody's I and I selections black so they can't tell they're selecting anything. It's a pretty good one, Dan. I like that one.
Uh, Send your Revit icon pointed to AutoCAD. Gross.
Back to black. Yeah, that's when you just say when people can't figure out how to get it back to black, you're like, gray is the new black.
Oh, Michael. Set everything to white.
Yeah, change the face filter to everything to override it as white. That does make me laugh. I remember way back when I had a client, they were trying to do renderings in Revit, and we actually set a phase filter and made the material cardboard. So when they actually did a rendering, the previous phase was all cardboard, so everything rendered out cardboard. We did have to build in a filter to change the glass, not to do that, but or we hid all the glass, I think what it was. So actually there was just no glass, and that one actually was pretty cool to be able to go through and see. So in reality, or in all fair and fair, I did open up a simple little file. I'm going to go and undo everything here because somebody's going to ask a support question. I'm going to go back to try to work it. Like, why is it
You're
black
gonna
and
punk
wet and
yourself.
gray? Screwed with myself here.
Oh no, it's on my stuff. Well, I'm getting April Fool's by Dynamo. I just tried to open Dynamo and it crashed my Revit, so that was funny.
That's always fun. I don't think
Look
you
how
were
much fun we're having.
you weren't online when I freaked Vienna out this morning and told her there was a hurricane coming and she had to pack all her stuff because there was a bad thunderstorm last night. So she thought we were ending our trip short. She was freaking out. It was quite fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh, that's so special.
And then I told Paxton we got a sailboat and we were going to go sailing, and he got excited. And I was like, oh, April Fools, because I am the evil parent. Because his birthday was yesterday and Vienna's birthday is Thursday, so or Friday. Always got to love that when it comes that many days apart. Okay, so the one thing I did really want to talk about, again, we are waiting for some questions to come up here. I only see 2 questions going. But the one thing I did want to talk about, because I was creating this beautiful precast panel family for somebody, is that, and I forget what release it was. I think it might have been Revit release 23 or one of the point releases. I'm not sure. But I love the fact that in one of the more recent releases, we have this capability that when you do a void with a void within a family, you can actually have the capability to not have this cut geometry. This is huge. I know in the old days when I had done families like this, I used to have like a reference plane. These are all using that reference plane for a work plane. And if I wanted it to not cut the family, I had to move the void off of the family. So literally I would host all these on a reference plane that would move away from the surface. If you said, no, cut you wanted these reveals in there, then that reference plane would move into the surface. And in a scenario like this one, where I had some that get toggled off with one thing and another one gets toggled off with another, I'd have 4 or 5 different reference planes that would move in or out based upon that. So it was kind of one of those tools that I had that I was thinking about as well is, hey, cool, with these voids, you can have the capability to say, is this going to cut the geometry? And it's just going to go in and create a simple yes, no geometry yes, no parameter for you to have inside of that project. So it's a great feature, great tool that I don't know if everybody creating content takes utilization of or thinks about that. So this particular family here, I've been working on for a client this week, and I was kind of like, previously, this probably would have been two separate families, one that had all these voids and one that didn't. But in this case, I'm actually just like, cool, I'm going to go through and add all these voids, and this is making my life so much easier compared to the one I created for this client like 2 years ago, and we didn't have all those fun checkboxes. So, did anything come up with you, Melissa, in the last month that you're like, hey, that's something we should be mentioning on Revit Radio?
I didn't think of off the top of my head. I'm on bad hotel coffee, so that's not helpful. We have been having some weird PDFing issues with an ACC project, but we're still working on that one.
Oh,
So
you're trying
I
to,
guess more of a wonder. Is anybody else having problem
are you
printing
exporting
an
the PDF?
ACC? I think we've tried it both ways, I believe.
Yeah.
Exporting and plotting in a couple different plotters. So,
Yeah, I have a particular client that they actually use Ideate Automate to try to do it. And the Ideate Automate, in conjunction with a project on ACC, it does not like the export to PDF. They get weird things that it freaks out on them. We can export to PDF as well, but again, that their project's so large, it takes like 4 or 5 hours. So they're not actually doing it and then if they do that, that usually bugs out on that as well. But doing it in small little bat patches seems to work. But yeah, like you said, I usually find out more luck printing the PDF with like cute PDF, but
mm.
which I think everybody's been here before knows that PDFing or cute PDF is one of my favorite PDF plotters because it's the most simple, stupid one you can get on. And Dan says PyRevit just totally jacks when he tries to go to PDF. So I've seen that issue as well with PyRevit. All righty, I'm going to pause my screen here for a second because I did get two questions come up to me via email, which I meant to forward to Melissa, and I'm just a slacker and I forgot to. Um, so one of those questions I'm going to paraphrase because I feel like when people send me questions in emails, it's like, a novel, which we don't get in here, but I'm going to basically paraphrase. So Rick sent me a question saying, hey, I've got 3 buildings linked into one, which is great. I've got like a parking garage, building A, building B, whatever the scenario might be. And we are using the by linked view in a project. So I think I have a file I can open for that. Yes, I'm in 24. So when we start looking at that and talking about that, when we get in Revit, and I teach this quite often, for doing my nested details. This is actually how I do nested details. Where am I going? 2024. No, it's not what I wanted. I just want to go up a folder. Now, doing this all on one screen is just horrible. What am I looking for? Nope, I'm going to here. I think I have it in here. Man, I don't even have it in here. I'm just like, single screens freaking me out, whatever.
Yeah.
It's actually under, I remember where I have it now. I just got to remember which folder it is. I probably did it in here. And I'm gonna have to search this up in here. But anyway, so what he's got going on as I'm trying to find a file that has linked files inside of it, it probably could have just linked some just as fast. But what's going on inside of here is he's actually doing by link view, and I'm actually just going to do that. I'm just going to go into a new project. I will choose the out of the box default. And so he's bringing in these projects. He's got A, B, building A, B, and C, linking B and C into A, whatever the theory might be. When he's going through and doing that, he's got the fact that he's inside of here and he's doing by linked view. By linked view is working great until he's got the revision clouds. And
Okay.
unfortunately,
I was just gonna ask, I was seeing your old screen.
oh, I forgot to unpause because I was reading the email. Sorry. Here we go. Well, it's okay. All you guys missed was me fumbling, trying to find
Oh, so you forgot then, huh?
I forgot to hit it. And I've got a nice pop-up now saying I need to set up professional in my audio settings because I have no idea what that is. Sweet. Um, but so what he's doing is he's linking these in. That's not what I wanted. We'll link in my fun, very small. I'm in 24, not 25. My very small typical building. So when we link this in, and it's probably up at 100 feet, so we got to go make this, right? So in a floor plan view with this file being linked in, we can go into visibility graphics, we can go into our Revit links, and we can instead of by host view, by linked view, and choose one of those linked views, right? When we do this, it's going to bring across all of the 2D stuff inside of there. If there happen to be AutoCAD files with this which this had, you're going to see. You're going to see all the tags, etc. The problem that's happening inside of there is for this particular client, his revisions are not matching. So in building A, he's got revision 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the sequences. He's saying, hey, turn off 2 and 4 in this building, but building B, 2 and 4 are not turned off. So, or he is turning off the 2 and 4 in those, etc. So they're not matching up. And the biggest thing I was going to say to Rick is if that's the case and you are setting this up and you do need to see those revisions from the linked files, you need to make sure you are going in and actually seeing or all of those revision sequences are the same. So the only way this is going to work is if those revisions sequences are the same. So in your revisions, you've got to make sure that sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are doing the same thing for each one. You can change the ones and they can just be fake for one or the other to be alphanumeric, etc. Say none on the ones that are becoming from the previous one, etc. You can do it that way. The other solution to do that you should be able to do is I believe, and if I go into VG, even though I've said Revit links, this might not be correct as I'm thinking about it. I was going to say, I think I can go into annotate. Yeah, you can't do that either. So I think that's literally the only way you're going to be able to do it. Or the other possible scenario is in each building, rename what that tag is called. So you could actually call this revision tag A, and then you could say, cool, let me create a filter to turn off revision tag A, right? So if I come down here and I just do a revision, let me go do a revision cloud real quick and tag it, annotate. I do revisions so rarely, I always forget where revisions are. I thought revisions were in annotate. Where are they? They're here. Yep, revision cloud. Sure, draw a rectangle, set this up, say finish. Right? So I know this is going to be inside of here, and I don't want to go turn this off, VG, whatever. You could go in and start doing things like comments if you're not using this, and just say like A, B, C, etc. And then once you do that, I believe you can do a filter for revisions, revision clouds. I could be incorrect. Let's find out. As I'm saying that, I'm trying to remember. Actually, I don't think you can do a filter for revisions. So I think I tried this before. Yeah, because you can't filter revisions. Yes, that's not going to work because that's a tag and you can't filter tag stuff. Yeah, I got nothing other than they need to match on that scenario when you're looking at that, Rick, because yeah, when you say from linked view or you create a view that doesn't have any of the revision clouds in it in that linked project, and you're going to be bringing that one across and you just don't display the revisions from that link. Yeah. Yeah, so if the revision numbers are identical, it will work. If they're not, then they don't work. And that's where I said that is the one thing about by linked view is you're like, cool, that's there, that's whatever. You could duplicate that view with detailing. You'll get all the tags, you'll get all the dimensions, the notations, etc. And then just delete those revision clouds, and that can be the one you link. Does kind of suck, but yeah, it should turn on and off if the revisions do match the same name. So hopefully that answers Rick's question on that one. And I did have one other email since I see we got a few more coming in. And again, I'm going to pause my screen. Remind me to unpause it. And this one came in from Michael Theed, and his question is here. When exporting Revit to AutoCAD, what's the best procedure? I have images within my Revit, and those appear to not go out to AutoCAD. Is there any way to improve that export to AutoCAD? To my knowledge, and Melissa or anybody else, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that when you export to AutoCAD, you are ever going to get the revision, or excuse me, the images to export to AutoCAD as well. I don't believe there's anything in the export settings. It's just like, hey, I'm going to export the PWG. It doesn't give you any of the settings inside of here for images, to my knowledge. So to me, I don't think images go out when exporting. So I think the only option you are going to have is to literally print the PDF and bring that PDF into AutoCAD, or do both types of scenarios, a PDF with the image on top of. I don't know. I really don't have an option for you, but to my knowledge, there isn't a way to make those images go across. See if anybody's correcting me in the chat. Yeah, if it's a, yeah, sorry. Thank you for that correction. Beth and Simon, links don't seem to work when you export it, but if the image is embedded, I knew it was something like that. And then if you export them out, you do have to repath the XREF. So it does see it as an XREF when you're in AutoCAD. But yeah, I believe if it's linked in Revit, it doesn't see it in exports. I don't do a whole lot of that exporting AutoCAD if I have images in it. So I could be incorrect on that too. But yeah, if it's a link, Simon's saying if it's a link, it doesn't export. If it is imported, which I hate imported, it will go out. So it depends on how you brought that image in, if you linked it or if you imported it. Cool. Thank you for the assist on those, everyone. I'm going to go back to my email again real quick. I'll read the other part of Rick's question, and then we'll go to the questions that are actually in the Q&A pod here. Oh, yeah. Rick's other question was how to, or not Rick, sorry, this is Michael's question. Michael's question was, I need to go in and create a simple table in Revit. I keep doing in drafting views with lines. Is there a better way to do it? So one of the things you can do is create a schedule. Doesn't matter what type of element you create a schedule for, you just need to create a schedule, right? Most people I know go in and doing something they don't think they would ever schedule, like analytical surfaces or something like that. It does not matter in reality, because for me, I just need to bring one thing across, right? You need to bring a parameter across. And most people will do this. So if they don't have any analytical surfaces, they won't ever schedule it. For me, all I ever do is when I go in and do the schedule, I just go into the filter tab and I filter by whatever I brought in, and I put something in there like, hey, it can't equal Homer Simpson. So as long as somebody doesn't bring in an analytical surface and type the name Homer Simpson, I am not going to schedule it, right? So I don't care if you do a wall schedule, a door schedule, a window schedule, right? I do try to pick something that I don't model a lot of. So when I open up that schedule, it doesn't have to process any data. But again, so I did analytical surface. I say, cool, Homer Simpson. You just then need to make sure that you've got headers turned off and you have your titles turned on. That's basically the big thing. So now what you end up having is a schedule that has nothing inside of it, but it does have this title area up here. Once you get this title area up here, you can leave the name if you want. Most people are going to get rid of it. You can do that by coming up here and saying, I want to clear this cell. And once you do that, now you can start inserting above, below, whatever you want, more rows, more sectors, etc. You can come in here, and if you're going to want to like divide this up, you can go in and put 2 columns in here. Again, you're not going to schedule it. So if you have a few columns in here, it will automatically get those to you. But you can also see up here, you can say, cool, I want to insert a vertical row. And now I've got a vertical row. So if you're saying like, cool, I wanted to kind of do this as a table, right? I can insert a row. I can set that row up. I can grab these 2 and merge them back together. Then this could be the title of whatever I want to do in here. I can do numbers in here for like my bullets, and then I can add my text in here. Right? Each one of these are going to be individual columns or individual cells. You can grab multiple cells and start playing with your formatting. Like you probably want these to be left justified. Maybe you want these ones to be right justified, whatever you're thinking about. cool. I want all of those to be center justified if I'm getting into it. So if the line gets longer or shorter, and you can keep going through and doing that. Then again, you've got the insert above or below. So if you're like, oh, I needed to add one in between, you could go above. It is not going to go back and renumber all these for you. So you are going to have to go back and redo it. But this is basically the way in Revit to go in and start adding and setting up a dumb table that is truly going to be a table. If you also wanted like all the lines, etc., again, you do have the borders inside of here. So I can be like, cool, I needed the outside of all of these inside of here to get the borders. Probably need to say what font those were going to be. Borders. Yeah, let's just do them with wide lines. Okay, right. No, outside, inside. What are we looking for? And then you'll start to get all of those border lines when you're in there. You do need to make sure that you have in the appearance. Now the grid lines are on, so we're good. Grid lines, headers, footers, spacers, etc. And now we can start to see all those lines. So that's the easy way to do a dumb table if that's what you're looking for. And again, if you're like, this is great, I want to do another row below selected, and then I wanted the indent to be even in farther indented in, you are going to have to then come in and like insert a row, which will do it all the way up, which kind of sucks. So then you've got to come back and be like, cool, let me merge these ones, let me merge these ones, let me merge, right? So you're coming back and re-merging all of these. And then I could be like, cool. Then if I have a sub indent, I could be like, then this is my little A and subtext. So it's just a matter of going in. The one thing I don't like about doing this is half the time you're going to come in here to click to change the text and you're going to do something like that. So you constantly are going in, and at least I constantly am going in and changing the width of the columns, the width, the height of the rows, etc. And that kind of becomes a little bit of a pain as well. It's like setting up a 1993 Excel table.
Classic Excel.
Yeah, and Sarah says she just does it with text, and then after that, because we've got the bullets of the numbering with text, we go through and just draw lines in after the fact. There's also add-in utilities out there that'll actually like import something from Excel, and it'll go do basically what I just showed you right here from Excel. It'll bring it in and do it inside of here. I use Ideate Sticky. It'll actually update it if I update the Excel file. Downside to any of those add-ins that I've seen is when you bring it in from Excel, Excel doesn't understand inches for fonts because Excel is using points. So you can't ever do it. So when I look in here and start to look at the font that I actually used, this is using my whatever font I had set up, my standard font that it's using. But I'm importing it from something. Oftentimes I'll get a whole new font, be like, oh, this is Arial 1/2 billionth of an inch type heights. So that's the downside to me, is it doesn't necessarily use my defaults that I have going on, right? Because if I come in here to my appearance, here I said, hey, use my 1/4 inch Arial or my 3/32 Arial, and it might not actually do that for you. So that's the other downside when you're looking at doing that. But there are tons of add-in utilities for that. So feel free to go in and start looking at there's some add-in utilities that'll do it. I use Ideate. It's not a free one, but it does have you. That is how it's done when people are doing it. And there are times, even my template, I have one that's got all the code data inside of there, like all the stuff we have to list for code. It's done as a table like this. So if somebody edits it, they can tweak it. Yeah, and Michael says he created a number of these. He built an Excel sheet, formatted it to match, and then brought it in. I will say that even in Excel, I've had people like, oh, I had the columns this exact width and the rows this exact height. And I've tried 3 or 4 different imports. Some of them do that better, some do it worse, but none of them have ever been perfect. Like I've never had it like, oh, if I print this out of Revit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet and print out of Excel, do they look the same? They never look the same. They get close, and they're close enough in my opinion, but I've never seen them actually do it. So hopefully, Michael, that answers your second question. So what questions did we have come up, Melissa, in the actual Q&A pod?
The official one.
The official one.
Oh, here's another ACC issue. Is anyone else having issues with cloud work sharing for some reason stopping working? Sorry, I definitely read that weird. Autodesk's only solution pretty much is to uninstall and reinstall Revit. I've had it happen sporadically to various users, prevents them from being able to see any links in ACC. I've done desktop connector updates, so it's not that. Didn't know if there was any known problem that could be causing it.
I haven't had
Oh.
that issue before. I mean, yes, we have all have had our random issues at ACC, don't get me wrong, but I've not had it to where I've had to uninstall Revit and reinstall it for users. I guess the follow-up question to that, Kate, would be, is this on the same project or is it just all projects across the board?
Yeah, and we did have one Aaron was running down where the person that came to him with the problem was actually not the problem. Her desktop connector was like the only one set up right and updated, and I think other people hadn't gone and checked the box to actually have the project right.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. We had the same thing where somebody was, the new one is like 16.2, and there was one person that was like still on 15.1. And whenever that one person would come in, it would randomly cause another user to have issues. And we finally tracked it down to, oh, this one person's on a year and a half old desktop connector.
Yeah,
Um,
super fun when it breaks the people that are doing it right. It breaks theirs.
Yeah. I've also seen a lot of issues in ACC, especially if you're in 24.3 and not 24.3.1, where we had one of the architects who was in 24.3 and not 0.3.1, which there was a known bug. Every time that person would save, all the consultants could not open up their models. It would say they didn't have permissions on ACC.
That's a fun
Yeah,
feature.
so we finally got everybody upgraded to the same damn version on every discipline. Normally, I say it doesn't matter if your disciplines, if the different disciplines are on different
Right.
releases of Revit. Usually doesn't matter, but in this one case, it did. So that was the thing. The other big thing that everybody else is talking about here is to clean up your Revit cache. Um, that is something that I actually tell people to do all the time. And almost every one of my clients, I actually have a little shortcut for them. But if we come up here, that's my Autodesk Teams cache. Here's my Revit cache. If you go into this folder, and here's the little shortcut. I'm going to post this in the chat. But you go into the folder, this would be where you can go in and clean up the cache based obviously on the version of Revit. And I'm going to go into chat, paste this here. This is something that I always recommend when people are having issues, just go clean out the cache. I literally have this in a batch file. But not only do I go in here and just clean out this cache, I go in also and clean out the journal files. Because when you start looking inside of here, the journal folder will keep copies of the buildings inside of here. And the journal files, yes, Autodesk needs the journal files. These are your logs to know what you're doing and what's going on. That's how they can test for corruptions. But a lot of people don't know that RVTs are also stored in the journal file. So for me, I go in and my little utility goes in and deletes everything in the journal file. Actually can't do it because that's, I'm in that version of Revit, but so I go in and delete everything out of the journals folder. I go in, delete everything out of the collaboration cache folder. Not everything because that's my user, but you can, it'll recreate. For me, I'm a little bit more fine-tuned because I might have 30 projects in here and I don't want every project to be taking forever to open. But most users are on one project for a very long time or two projects. Yeah, just blow out their cache. It doesn't matter. Also, I go in and blow out everything in the CF cache. And then back in the Revit parent folder, I also blow out everything in the pat cache as well. So these are the things that I have. And I have a little script, a little BAT file on all my client servers. It says, cool, go in and clear out all of these four folders when you get in there, along with percent temp percent. That is not a percent symbol. God dang it. Wow. Finger. So the temp folder is another one that I see often, and you can tell I haven't done it in a while. I have 11,000 items on here. That Revit starts to freak out because Revit writes so much stuff to the temp folder that if the temp folder starts to get too large, I've seen Revit crash because the temp folders are large. I've also seen Revit max out temp folders and the whole computer crash because of it. So again, for me, I go in and tell everybody, cool, go do a Shift A, Control A, a Shift Delete, get rid of all of this stuff in the temp folder, and do that as well. So my little BAT file goes in and just wipes all of those things out. So that's what I end up doing. And that's how I go through and set it up. And 90% of the time, that fixes issues. I'm assuming you probably already tried some of this. Not sure, but yeah, those are a lot of the things that I like to go through and do as well, Caitlin. So hopefully,
Fun that there's like 12 different places to go check.
yeah, yeah, I clean out the journals that, and most of my clients, they still do a few projects on their internal their internal servers. So I also have everybody writing to their C drive for their local files, and it goes in and cleans that out too. So I have one script. I also have that same script replace their INI because a lot of times people are like, why this broke or that broke, and I'm like, so when they run that script, it cleans everything and it replaces the INI with the company's default. It's like, there you go. I don't care if you customized it. I'm replacing the leaving with default because you did something stupid most of the time, and I don't care. So hopefully, Caitlin, yeah, all the local data.
Hopefully one of those will get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely worth clearing all those out before doing a full
Yeah, like
reinstall.
Michael said, Autodesk default thing is just format C colon. That'll fix your all of your problems.
Everyone say bye to Dan.
All right. See you later, Dan. All
Bye,
right. So
Dan.
what's our next question?
All right. Let's see. Well, we'll just stick with Caitlin. So the forums seem to be split on if revision clouds should be on views or sheets, and she's wondering our take. I was recently asked to create a revision cloud schedule to help with some documentation that had to be made. Showed the sheet revisions, a reason, and some other parameters that she made. The issue came when I realized revision clouds placed in views do not show up in that schedule. Well, that's fun.
I don't know if I always put revisions in views. And in my personal opinion, a sheet is merely a placeholder for views, right? So even if I have like sheet notes, and I'm working on just sheet notes in a project, for me, the sheet notes are never done on a sheet. I do a legend of notes or a drafting view, usually a legend, and I place that legend onto a sheet, even if it's only on one sheet. I have a policy of everything is done in a view. Those views are placed on sheets because if not, then you start getting people going, oh, well, if that's done on a sheet, I can probably do this on a sheet, and then all of a sudden you start getting all of this stuff. The other big reason why I think revision should be done in the view is what happens if the view moves. That revision cloud is no longer clouding the object that's there, right? So if somebody's like, oh, I did this area in this view, the only exception I have to that rule is if you're like, man, so much shit changed in this view. I just want to come in here and go in and be like, cool, this entire sheet has changed so drastically. Just look at it. The only exception to the rule for me is if you are clouding the revision bubble itself. So I don't know, Melissa, what's your guys' process on that?
Well, like Beth is saying, you can't always put stuff in views, so you would have to cloud revisions or schedules specifically you have to do on the sheet. And then it turns into the like, well, it's in views, except in this case or that case.
See, I don't put revision clouds in schedules. So for me, any of my schedules, and I have a stupid schedule here, I create a custom project parameter. And
We also have that.
yeah, my project parameter is literally revisions. I just edited one, didn't create a new one. Sweet. Let's try that again. New revisions for schedules. And I literally have this parameter, right? And I add it to, and it's a text value, right? And so I come in here and not time. I hate when you type in T, it goes to time by default. It drives me crazy.
That's taught me a few times lately.
Oh God, I've created so many parameters. I'm like, why isn't this working? Oh, son of a. And then literally I'll just start ticking whatever it is that I schedule that I need revision on. Usually it's like a door schedule, a window schedule, things like that. And then I set that up, right? And so then in that parameter, whatever I'm scheduling, I also then do a conditional statement. And in that conditional statement, that column will highlight if there's a revision value in there. So that way, it's not like people need to look down that one column. I have the little column, just the one cell in that column highlight if there's a revision, highlight in a light red or whatever. So again, don't put the revisions on a sheet because again, I've seen too many clients do that. Then the view moves around or the view gets deleted and all these.
But if you're moving the view, you should be moving it on the sheet, right? So therefore,
Yes,
you
but
should be able to also
not with the
select.
potential 2026 property that's coming out.
That's true. See, I fall into the camp of just do everything perfectly, so there's definitely no revisions in your project, and that just always works.
I think that is the perfect answer. There you go.
Yeah, April Fools.
Yeah, but I have had clients like move views from one sheet to the other, and then it's kind of like, oh my gosh, now there's revisions floating, and I don't know. To me, it's just I am a views or sheets are placeholders for views kind of guy, and I know a lot of people disagree with me. I didn't understand in the question about a schedule because I didn't think revisions ever showed what sheet they were on. But I guess if you're doing it in the sheet, maybe that's why I've never seen that.
So this is probably the new revision schedules that were what in 24, not just the sheet ones, I assume.
Vision clouds placed on views do not show up in a schedule. Yeah, I don't think I actually knew then. I didn't realize that you could actually say what sheet those were on if they're in a sheet, not in a view. So I don't know, something I'll have to look into and maybe it'll change my mind.
I mean, really just try the perfect project thing. It's so much easier.
Yeah, I love that statement. I always like when I'm creating like families, like that stupid freaking family I'm creating for that precast family. The client's always like, "Oh no, it's always going to be that way." And I just laugh when I hear people
Mhm.
say that. It's like, no, it's not.
Yep.
It's not. It's not if changes will happen. The question is when changes happen.
Yeah. Yeah, Beth's right. Beth does the same thing. Things never change in those projects either, right? Everything's always, you got the right answer and you get to go with it.
Yep. All righty. What's our next question here?
Well, what we should do a poll. So Rick is just saying, out of curiosity, is standard text size 3/32 or 1/8? Dun dun dun. Fight it out.
Fight it out. Fight it out. Technically, if you look at national CAD standards, it says eighth of an inch.
Yep.
And most government projects will tell you the text has got to be an eighth of an inch instead
Ooh,
of
I like
64th.
7/64. I vote for that.
Simon, I'm not American. Yes, way better. 3 millimeters.
That sounds made up.
That's made up. No one can read something 3 millimeters tall.
What?
Yeah, I always I sit there and laugh because I know like national CAD standards, their theory for eighth inch tall text is when you take a full size sheet and print it half size, you can still read it at an eighth of an inch, but it's more difficult to read it 30 seconds. I kind of sit here and laugh at this because my personal opinion is 90% of the people out there are doing everything on a PDF where we have infinite zoom. So who gives a shit? I don't know. It just makes me laugh. I mean, I see very few people actually looking at unrolled drawings anymore. Everybody's doing everything online in PDFs. I know there's jurisdictions who still need to look at them, etc. But I think, in another few years, those are going to be few and far between, or those jurisdictions aren't going to exist. But one of the two. And we use
Well, that
PDF.
was ominous.
So for me, it's even the fact like I start getting into more and more of the things of since we have that infinite scroll, what can we do? One of my clients is revamping all of their standards, and they're like, we're going to do text and tags in blue, and they're going to start adding color. Because like everybody's looking at PDF anymore. Let's make it easier to understand what's the building and what's not.
Yeah, we definitely started bringing in things, especially like grid lines were a blue color so that you could definitely tell what your grid was.
Well, and even things like me, like I have dimension styles, and I have the dimension style that's going to be rounded, a
Ah,
darker shade of whatever that color is. So if you're like, your dimensions are normally black, then I have an extremely dark red for rounded dimension styles.
I definitely like that one too.
And so yeah, I don't, I think it is what it is, and I forget who asked that question. I don't think you're ever going to get an answer. It's just going to be whoever the higher up say what the hell they want it to be. All I can ever say is you plan on chasing government work. Think about doing it as eighth inch text. because they will require you to do it when you have to go recreate all of your tags with 8-inch tall text. It really sucks.
Uh, it's very efficient. We're all about efficiency.
So what's our next question?
All right, our next and last is
I actually see
I
two questions.
oh, I only see them. Oh, maybe that one popped in before I did.
Probably did pop in before you did because that one was literally like before it even started.
Yes, I had to go get my jacket because of course I'm in California and my
And
room is
everything's over
heating,
air
even though I
conditioned.
turned off the stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, you'll have to do the last one because I cannot see it. So the last one I can see says, I have a generic model family for exterior window and door trim, and another for wall trim at corners, roofs, etc. Generic models above the cut plane show in floor plan view, so the trim for windows and walls above show in floor plan. I use generic model so the trim can join to the wall. How can trim above be not shown without selecting hide in view?
I don't think generic model. Did generic model show above the cut plane? They're within the
I
primary region?
I didn't think so, but I'm wondering if it's getting joined to the wall with that thing.
Good reading between the lines because I was not there on that one. Because I was wondering on this is when you come down here, there are the exceptions. Elements intersect the cut plane. Where is it? It's here somewhere. Non-cuttable families. Where am I looking for the ones that talks about exceptions to the rule for the above? Here we go. I just wanted to see if it was actually generic models in here.
Mm.
Yeah, or generic model. So I did not know that. Windows casework or generic model show above the cut plane. Don't use generic models.
But then there's the whole,
The only thing I'm going to be able to say, and you would have to start doing something, is you could hide in view, but I would not do that. I would start creating some sort of view template, or excuse me, a view filter, adding that to your templates that you could have, hey, these ones are above the cut plane. So, you would go in and whatever that object is, this is actually LinkedIn, so I need something inside of here. If you were going to have something that's a generic model, that's not it either. I thought in one of these I started a template. There we go. So if you had something that was a generic model, like, hey, here's, because see, this is a generic model, not specialty equipment. If it was there, you could go in the comment say AC for above cut plane or something like that. And then I would add that into a filter. So you're like, cool, I didn't want to see this. This is going to be above the cut plane. Or depending on how you have that family set up, if you actually get like off elevation from level, if you have the elevation from level set up, you could even do that as well. So depending on how your families are set up, you probably could create some sort of filter for that. So that's my go-to always for anything is view filters. I would go in and create a new filter and I'd be coming here, cool, my above cut, right? And then I would just come in here and look at one of those properties. Like if it's the elevation from level is greater than, in this case, again, don't know how your family's set up. I'm going to say 3 feet, 36. Do I have to get a drop down? Really? You won't let me type something in here?
nope, you have to pick the right one.
That is stupid.
That's funny.
Oops, I didn't mean to hit enter. I hate it when I do that. 12 cups does not equal 3 feet is greater than 3 feet. Okay, so there we go. Type it in first and then it works. Let's just verify that that's still working. 12 cut is greater than 3 feet. Cool. So right then I can add that filter inside of here. Cool. We're going to add my above cut. And right now this is oops, that's not filters. And right now, obviously, this is just set up inside of here, but then I'm like, cool, just turn the visibility off and it should go away. So I would look at trying to come up with some sort of filter, even if you don't know what that is and you want to manually type in just something in comments or something like that. I would look at trying to go into that and setting it up to where you're not hide in view, 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 and all the different views. I would go through and set it up that way. But yeah, I actually didn't know the generic model showed up above. I thought it was casework in Windows. Well,
Yeah,
obviously structural
not that I've
columns.
run into that either. Or not paid attention to it, apparently.
Yeah, and then Mark put something in here saying Nick has another way to do that as well. The other thing I was gonna say when how I first read that too, and this is one thing that like I am not a big fan of doing symbolic lines. So if I came in here, actually probably the wrong family, I needed it the the frame family. For me, I know a lot of people like when they do their doors, they just do it as one sweep up, over, and around. The only reason I don't do this, same thing for windows, same thing for window trim, anything like that that I don't do. I do them as like three separate or four separate sweeps. And the reason for that is if you don't, when you are cutting through this, you would see that top piece, right?
Mhm.
Doors and windows are terrible and notorious at this. So for me, I do them independently because then I can say, cool, don't ever show this in a plan or RCP. Now, the weird part is, even though if I cut through this and look up, I still see that frame. So I don't understand why it's showing there because I have it set down here when cut in plan and RCP. But up here, it's like, no, don't display in those. And that way it keeps me from doing that. So a lot of times I get the question of somebody does one sweep going around. And yeah, it does suck. Like if I'm doing a regular casework and it's got like mitered corners, I do one on each side and it's a sweep and I cut it with a void. I do one on the top and the bottom and I cut those with a void. But then that way I can have the live object there, not some sort of 2D symbology in the plan. And it's going to adjust with my parameters, etc. And that's how I go through and set it up. So it adds a little bit more tediousness of setting up those families, but in essence, I like it better because now I'm never going to see that window trim, anything above or below or anything like that.
Plus, you can have a different head height.
Yep. But cool.
So that's it for questions that I
That's
can.
it for all you could see. So there's another one that Michael came up with, and it said, is it possible to cut a model in place topo solid, either extrusion or sweep, with a model in place void? I cannot make it work. So create a topo solid with a sweep. I think that's how I'm reading that, and I think I'm reading that correctly. So should allow you to do that. So if I go in architecture, nope, massing insight, I go into topo solid. Let's draw the boundary for my topo solid. Sweet. Let's go What am I doing? Modify sub elements. Let's add a couple. See, I got all these tools hiding with these things in here. Let's just go add some points. Wait, clicked on the add point from surface. We'll just go 2 feet. Boom, boom, boom. Sweet. That looks good. Beautiful surface. All right, go back to 3D. Ooh, let's go edit this. Let's go make this like 30 feet thick. Yeah, so if I come in here and I go create an in-place object. So one thing is it doesn't necessarily have to be a void either. That is one of the nice parts about this. You can go in and start creating other parts as well. What am I looking for? Sweet. Architecture, model in place, component, model in place. I do so very rarely model in places. Topography, okay, sure. Let me go to a sweep. Let me sketch a path. Beautiful. Finish. Let me go back to 3D. I'm in 3D. Let me go edit profile. Let's draw a tunnel. My version of a tunnel. Finish that. Finish that. switch it to a void. And I should be able to finish. Oops, nope, cancel. I should be able to say cut this by this and then finish. So should be able to. Unless I missed something on that, Michael. Yeah. Simon said it could be if your void doesn't extend beyond the topo solid. I don't think it technically needs to. I think if I were to just move that up or down, I think technically I could even move it. Uh, I should probably just use a profile offset, but yeah, I don't think it technically needs to extend past. If I go edit sketch, oops, wrong thing. And I just gotta get the damn void. Yeah, so here you can see it's not extending past, and it's still cutting it just fine. So it should work. The other thing I was gonna say is those can also technically be solids as well. So no one says it had to be a void like I made it. You can actually make those a solid um, when you're doing them. So you can make them solids and you can cut it out with a solid also. But I am in 25. I am in 25, so maybe if you're not in Revit 25, I'm not sure about that. I do know when we first had like the Topo Solids, they were kind of a pain in the ass.
Well, another thing might be, is it one that got created new or is it an upgraded file? Because I think we've seen some kind of weird stuff happen with upgraded topo bits. And by we, I mostly mean Lauren because she's good at that.
And by we, I mean, yeah. Oh no, Michael's saying make a topo solid with an in-place component, then make another in-place component to cut it. So if you're doing in-place components, so again, architecture, component, model in place. So if you're doing anything, regardless of if it's a topo solid or anything, the topo solid void usually needs to be in the same topo solid extrusion. So if I just went and did a topo solid extrusion and said, cool, create that. Let's make this 40 feet tall, right? If I finish this and do a void, it's hard to get those to cut from one to the other. If you wanted to void inside of this one, then yes, you inside of here, instead of hitting finish, go back to create and be like, cool, I'm going to go do another extrusion. I'm not going to be a sweep this time, but you'll get the point. Do this, finish it, right? Then we'll make this one 20 feet, right? As long as I go back and say, cool, this one's going to be a void. And I always do extrusions and sweeps first and then come back as a void. It's a habit that I have. One, because I don't want to automatically cutting everything in the file when I start. Two, I just forget to go hit void because the other buttons are there. But now when I do this, as long as I can say, hey, cut this by this and say finish, it should work just fine. But they have to be within the same in-place family. You can't have two in-place families, or you can, but it doesn't work as well most of the time. An in-place family over here and an in-place family over here, and then try to get them to work. So that would be my suggestion, is do it that way. Don't do them as two separate families, do it all within one. Yeah, the topo solid surface being converted to topo solids is what, I think that's what Melissa was talking about. So you upgrade, it's still a topo surface. You just can't do anything with it anymore. Then you have to convert it to a topo solid. And that's where we all see the weird things happening.
Yeah.
And that should technically be all the questions. And look at that, we're right at the top of the hour. Man, I never go an hour long on these things. Well, with that, we appreciate it. I'm gonna have to make sure there's nothing else in the Q&A or the chat. With that, we appreciate everyone showing up again. We appreciate you guys inviting it and getting the new names out there. We had quite a few new names this time, so love that happened. I did get this recorded, so I'll try to remember to post this up on my YouTube in case you want to share it with all of the other people you know. Other than that, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next month. And I'm pretty sure we'll have Revit 26 out because they're showing the what to do in like 5 days. So
Pretty sure.
pretty sure. All right, thanks everyone, and we will see you next month.
Bye.